All right. So like I said, there's going to be a ton of information tonight. I don't anticipate us getting through it all, but I do think that this will be the night that you start to see kind of everything come together. Like I said, I've been telling some people at work kind of what we're going through every night. And when I told them tonight's parameters and dashboard actions, they got pretty fired up. So this is what I think is like maybe some of the coolest functionality of Tableau is the functionality that when people see it, they'll go, ooh, ah, and make you seem like an expert, even though it's really, really basic. And unlike some of the other like advanced, functions and things that we've learned about that you use kind of rarely, this is something I use almost every dashboard that I build. So this is kind of everything that we'll go through. I'm calling it dynamic dashboards, but there'll be kind of two main sections, which was a little bit more for one night here, a little bit less than one night here. So we'll see if we'll get them all together. But like I said, we got some pretty stuff that we'll build out. So self-service dashboards are something that you build really, really dynamically. So this is a dashboard that you're going to hand over to a stakeholder to find their own insights. So everything that we've done kind of up to this point is figure out what you're trying to show, make it really, really pretty, and then like present it to them. Figure out what else, figure out the days to ship by shipping time, put it together, show it to them, show out the donations, put it together, cast it, show it to them. So you're kind of, as you're building them out, you know what you're trying to show, and you're building just kind of one thing. The goal of a self-service dashboard is to make them dynamic enough to show everything. So that's why I said dynamic dashboards, self-service dashboards, is you're going to build it in a way that someone without Tableau skills will be able to click around and play and have different things show up without actually having to build and chart themselves. So essentially, we're building a dashboard that allows them to build dashboards. So I think an example does a little better job of showing what I'm trying to talk about. So this is kind of the dashboard that we will spend the next 2 nights building. So this is with the Superstore data. On the left here, I have a chart that's profit margin by state. On the right, I have a scatter plot that's sales versus orders by subcategory. And you can see it's colored by the profit margin that we have over here. So the same thing's kind of across them. So now where this starts to get cool is say, I don't care about profit margin. I can click this little drop down here and say, I want days to ship. I click like that. And now my chart here is showing days to ship. You can see my title updated to days to ship. You can see my colors over here updated. You can see it's colored by days to ship for state all. Now, why is it saying for state all? Well, because it's showing for all the states. Let's say I'm just really curious about Maine. This one's really, really dark here. So if I click on Maine, you can see my chart over here updates. So now it's colored by days to ship. This is just for the state Maine. So it's showing that subcategory that we want over here. Same thing, orders here, sales here. But that's how it's going for Maine. So I can unclick that, everything pops back up. Let's go to sales now. You see everything updates. I can click on, let's go California. This updates over here. Maybe I care about Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. I can select all those update. So already I'm able to kind of dive into some different metrics. So here's sales, average discount. I like profit margin just because it's nice and colorful. So already I have one piece of dynamic, actually kind of 2 pieces. So I can choose which metric I want to show here, but I can also choose which state I want to show over here. However, where it gets really cool is on the scatter plot, I'm showing sales and orders. I actually have the ability to change what my scatter plot is over here. So on my x-axis, say I want to show, instead of orders, days to ship. So now you can see this updated to days to ship, and it's a completely different scatter plot that's showing days to ship versus sales. Maybe I care about discount. Or what was the one, Michelle, you were just showing profit in days to ship? We can click into profit and see everything updates. Again, being colored by profit margin, colored by sales. So let's go back to like sales versus order. Oh, this is fine. Sales versus profit. Now, the last thing that I have in here is the breakout right now is by subcategory, profits versus sales by subcategory. I can click into ship mode, and you can see I have my 3 shipping or 4 shipping modes there. I can click into category. There's our 3 categories. I can click into city. So essentially what I've done with this dashboard is allowed the end user that has no experience with Tableau. They don't know how to drag and drop things. They don't know how to filter things. They don't know how to set up a scatter plot. I've built it all for them. I can hand it over to them and just say, go crazy, learn everything about our sales, look, or our data, really. Any metric that you want, any state that you want, any breakout that you want, any scatter plot that you want, you can click into and see it. Yes, question.
So we provide the link. Does it already reset to wherever you started, or does it go based on, like, say, for example, Ryan
Let's see.
starts on it and I did it?
Nope, wherever you click in, it will reset. And you guys will be able, I don't know if you guys have seen this. I've actually done this to answer a couple questions, but you can download anything on Tableau Public and mess around with it. So as we get into this, you guys have any questions? Maybe I shouldn't have told you that, because now instead of doing it, you'll just download it and change a couple things. Cool. Then you can see, so like, there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes that we'll dive into here, but those are kind of the big things. You can also see I added a little image up there. Any questions on like the goal of self-service dashboards or how they're used or why they're used before we get into building our own?
A random one.
Yeah.
This is obviously an in-game, very easy. We're going to know the structure on how to do it. But when you're tasked with something new, something you've never done, is there like a process you go through just internally when you're looking at the information tools in our hand? Is there like a fundamental thing you start with and just kind of build on, or is that what we've kind of talked about already?
So the question was, when you kind of get one of these tasks, is there kind of a fundamental workflow that I typically use for building these out? And there is. I would say it's pretty synonymous with like software development or like product building, where you start with building each individual use case and then you figure out how to combine them into one. So when I was actually building this, I went in and I built 3 or 4 different scatter plots, and I was like, okay, what do these all have in common? And I'm like, well, they have the metric on there, they have the labels on here. So I built out kind of what I wanted the standard one to look like. And then I thought to myself, well, I can just toss a parameter, which is what we'll talk about, on the x-axis and combine 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different scatter plots into one. And then I can do the same thing on the y-axis and have another 3, 6, 7, not 10, 7 things here. So essentially this is, upwards of 49 different scatter plots combined into one. But I started out with actually building, obviously I'm not going to build 49, but I built 3 or 4 to figure out what they had in common. And then you can kind of think through, honestly, you just play with it and start asking yourself questions. And instead of building out the answer to that question, you build out somewhere to give you the answer. So I could have had this scatter plot and I could have just put a filter for state on it, right? That would have done the same thing that I'm doing here. And I thought, well, it's kind of cool to see all the states at once. So we can just use that as a filter and then have 2 different charts here showing 2 different things as opposed to one. So yeah, I would say the worst thing that can happen, and this is what I told my team all the time too, is like, don't try to make it perfect. You're not going for 100% out of the gate. Try to get 10% of the way there and then figure out how to make that 20%, then figure out how to make that 25% and slowly and surely build up. Because if I like sat down with a pen and paper and a whiteboard and I tried to like map out how I wanted this all to work, maybe that's the best way to do it. And I'm just not good enough, but I would have gotten stuck in decision fatigue forever of like, well, I don't know what metrics I want to. In fact, I kind of did when I was trying to build this out, because I was trying to build my slide deck at the same time. So I started in like how to do this and I kept getting lost. I didn't know what I wanted to teach first. So then I stopped. I'm like, let me actually build one and then I'll teach you how to build it as opposed to try to teach you everything at once. So long-winded answer for just like dive in. And
so I have a question also. So with the data that you have, obviously the Superstore has really good information, already data there. So you probably don't have to play with it. But like in real life, sometimes you don't have the data, or maybe the data is skewed and you have to like clean it up or whatnot, or maybe some of the things are not relevant. So like, where in that process do you think about that when you're doing a dashboard?
Yeah. So the question was, Superstore data is really, really clean. If you're working with messy data or even data that you're not familiar with, how do you deal with that while you're trying to dashboard out at the same time? The really, really unfortunate answer is a lot of times you can't. So there's been so many times, not even like dashboarding, but like trying to model something out or build a forecast around it, where I'll pull data down from our production environment, realize that it's missing something or it's not required, or it's an open text instead of a drop down. And then I'm just stuck. I just can't do the idea that I had. Then it involves me working with product to like fix the issue to get better data. But yeah, a lot of really, really cool ideas of mine have been shot down because of data quality. Now, if it's good data and you just don't understand it, kind of same advice I gave Ryan, just dive in. Start trying to ask questions and figure out answers yourself. Find the things that you think are interesting. Learn more about it as you go. That's honestly the best way to learn about data, is just start building charts around it. I've learned so much about the Superstore data or like Anna's like donation data just from seeing it all plotted out. So I'd say, yeah, just dive in. Anything else before we kind of get going here? Cool. So the next like 15 minutes or so will be, as always, kind of overview stuff. Whoops. And then we'll take a break and then we'll get our hands-on going. I'm going to hide my face so we can get the full screen in here. Cool. So parameters are up first. So parameters, if you remember like week 1, I gave you like the layout of Tableau and how to click around everything. And then like the last like 4 weeks, I've shown you little buttons you can click to get to new things. Very, very similar for parameters. So the little drop down to the left, the thing that we've been clicking to create a calculated field, that's the same thing that you'll click and you'll see right under create calculated field, you'll see create parameter. So what a parameter is, and you'll hear me use these terms interchangeably tonight, is essentially it's just a variable that we can use in our workbooks to replace anything that we have as a constant value. So if it's a calculation, a filter, a reference line, a parameter is just a variable. So what I mean, I don't know if I go through any examples, but let's say I have something that's like, if the sum of sales is greater than 500, then hit goal, else missed goal. And so say our goal for the month was 500 and we wanted to color how many of our regions or territories or something hit it. Right here, I have 500 hard coded in there. What I could do is I could create a parameter and replace my calculation to say if it's greater than whatever this mystery parameter is, then hit goal. And then what that allows us to do is then if we want to have a slider for somebody to like mess around with what the goal is or change it, or maybe we use goal for the month in 50 different calculations, is we can just say our goal for the month is 500. And then everywhere that we use that constant value of 500 is now all dialed in on one specific spot. So say we had, 10 different things in here. Creative fields. This one is like profit. This one is discount. If our boss came back to me and said, hey, the goal for the month is actually 600, I'd have to click into every single one of those calculated fields, change them all to 600. Or maybe I would give a dashboard to someone and they want to see is like, well, how many people would have hit it if it was 1,000, right? Then they could easily just go and change it in one spot and everything updates. So the easiest way for me to think about parameters is think about them in if statements of just taking out a constant value and replacing it with something dynamic. However, it can be used in a reference line. So it can be used in a filter. It can be used as a constant. So I'll go through a few different examples, but the way to think about parameters is just variables that you can plug and play to make things less static and more dynamic. Does that make sense? Just kind of at its core? Right. It can be used anywhere. Yep. So here's a good example. So right here we have 2 different views. We have sum of sales by category: furniture, office, supplies, technology. And over here, we have sum of sales by ship mode: first class, second class, standard. So up until this point, if we wanted to show both of these, we'd build two different charts. And this is kind of what I was talking about, is like build out the things and see what they have in common. In here, every single thing that we have on these two charts is exactly the same, except for this little pill here. One says category and one says ship mode. So how can we combine them together so that we're just showing one chart with the option to flip back and forth? And you can do that with a parameter. So I will go ahead and open this up and just show you exactly what I mean. So we have, sorry, we're taking notes.
No, you're fine. I was just gonna ask, so like static views is like static,
Yep,
whereas like the dynamic is like, it'll update and change based on what you.
exactly. Yep. So the question was statics versus dynamic. Static, and you answered your own question. So thanks. The static views are set; they can't change. Dynamic views are able to be kind of updated. And so we have. Let's pull in category here. Let's pull in sum of sales here. Right. This is one view. If we wanted to show a separate one, we could have category, or let's do ship mode, sum of sales. We can drag them both into a dashboard. So this is something that we've done 100 times up to this point, right? Two different views side by side. Now, the commonality between those two things is the sum of sales. The thing that's changing is the columns. So we're going to create a parameter to allow us to choose between ship mode and category. So let's create a new tab. We'll go here, create parameter, and we're going to title this, let's call it dimension choice. So remember, these are dimensions, these are measures. This is going to allow us to choose which dimension we want to group by. Now the data types here, floats and integers, those are just both different types of numbers. Strings is a text field. Boolean is just true or false, and then date and date time are both dates. So it can really be anything. But for this example, we're going to choose string. And then we're going to make the allowable values a list. So now basically we just want to type in what we want our values to be. And we just said we want our values to be category and ship date. So now you can see we have a parameter down here. We can click this, let's go show parameter. And right now this is really, really boring. It's not tied, we're not using this parameter anywhere, right? But we can see we have one created and we can click between ship date and category. Now all that's doing in the background is saying dimension choice equals category. Now it's saying dimension choice equals ship date. So we can use this parameter in the fact that dimension choice equals ship date or dimension choice equals category anywhere we want. So we know we want sum of sales here, right? And we want to use either category or ship date on our columns. So now we're going to create a calculated field. And let's call this, the other one was dimension choice. We'll just call this dimension pick. We're going to go back to good old ifs. We're going to learn a new one because this is what I used in the example. So case statements are very, very, very similar to if statements. I'm tossing too much at once. We'll do if. Everyone knows if. So if dimension choice, right? This is our parameter we just made. You can see that it pops up purple instead of like the our normal fields which pop up orange. We're going to say if dimension choice equals, remember these are strings, so we go category, then category. Else if dimension choice equals ship date. Crap, except I didn't want ship date. I wanted ship mode, whatever, then ship mode. again, I hate when I'm sharing my screen. Okay. We have this parameter over here. All we're doing when we're clicking between these two is saying dimension choice equals category or dimension choice equals ship date. So right here, the way I have it set on category, my if statement would say if dimension choice equals category, which it does, we're going to use the category field. Now remember, the only difference between these two charts, which is sum of sales, is category is on my column, ship mode is on my column. So now with this calculated field called dimension choice, if this is set to category, then we're going to use the category thing. So that would be the same as tossing that on my column. If it's set to ship date, which I apologize for typing in the wrong thing. If it's set to ship date, then we're going to use ship mode, which would be the same thing as pulling that over here. So let's see it in action. We have dimension pick. We pull it up here. We're on ship date here. I'm going to go ahead and change that. Otherwise, it's going to drive me insane. You can see it's kind of nice. What your actual value is and what it displays as can be different. So I'm actually not changing the backend value. Yeah, I will, because it's confusing. Real quick. I'll go back into my dimension pick because now it has to actually equal ship mode, which is the right thing, which I typed in. Ship mode, I click category, and category. So now instead of my two different dashboards, I could go out and give this to a stakeholder and say, hey, do you want to see our sum of sales? And they'll say yes. And they'll say, or I'll say, what do you want to see them by? And they'll say everything. So then you could go in, and so right now we just have category and ship mode. Let's make this a little bit more robust. Let's bring in subcategory, region, restate. So now, yes.
Or you know, the different data types, the string, or is that like all the different ones, or is that pretty much?
So for things like this, the question was, are we going to always use string? It really depends. I'll say if you want a little picker like this, typically string is what you'll use. We'll go through some other use cases for some of the other ones here in a bit.
I mean, it makes sense. The strings you have them all built on each other. I was just curious if the other ones were actually using the word.
Yep. We will get we'll get some hands-on time today as well too, and all these are in the screenshot of these in the slide deck as well too. So now though, right, I have category that works, ship mode works. When I click on subcategory, it breaks. Why is that? Right, the input, we're showing dimension pick up here. When dimension choice equals subcategory, what is dimension pick? Well, let's see. If it's category, then this. If it's ship mode, is this. When it's subcategory, nothing. So we have to add in another thing, another row. So let's do if it equals subcategory. We want to use subcategory equals region. Region. If it equals state. We want state. I swear these are the calculations. Oh, except I used a case statement. Here, I'll take a screenshot of that. Okay, now both of these. If you guys are interested in case statements, they're very, very similar to if statements, but there's no reason to dive into something new. It's not the point right now. Okay, I'm gonna keep cranking through this just because we'll do this all by ourselves too, or our hands-on too. So now we got our little picker over here. They all work now: state, region, ship mode, category. So now we could essentially give just one dashboard to a stakeholder and say, hey, you want to understand how our sales are spread out? Click into anything you want here, and they can automatically update. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing, but say what they're really interested in is profit. Okay, so we have dimension choice. We can click in any dimension that we want, but sum of sales, you can see, is still static. So what do? Another parameter. So we're going to call this, the top one was the dimension pick. We're going to call this the measure pick. So we're going to do the same exact thing. We're going to give them a little picker over here where they, instead of choosing which dimension they want to group by, we're going to choose which measure they want to aggregate. So we're going to use the string again. It's going to be another list, and let's keep it really simple. Let's just do sales, profits, and discount. Let's show it. Let's get it back to a list. Okay, so we got sales, profit, discount. We can click around all day. It's not doing anything. Why? Because it's not tied to anything. So let's give it something, right? We're just showing sum of sales right here. So clicking into any of these doesn't change anything because this is still just sum of sales. So let's create a calculated field, and we're going to call this measure pick. It's going to be the same exact thing. If measure, oh man, so annoying. Sorry. Let's change this to measure choice just so we keep things equal. Create our calculate field and call it measure pick. If choice equals sales, oops. If choice equals profits. I typically try to name things in my picker exactly as they are over here. But you can see I've messed up twice now. It doesn't really matter. So here, right, I have if it equals profits, then show profit. The only reason I named them exactly the same is to try to keep my head straight. But I could name these anything, right? I could name this profit for the quarter or Charlie's profit or anything like that. All it is a string that I'm later referencing. So if measure choice equals profits, because that's how I have it typed here, show the field profit. So they don't actually need to be the same thing. And then we'll go discount. Okay, so now we have our measure pick here, right? We're clicking around here. It doesn't matter. We're still just showing sum of sales. Let's bring that up. And now we're showing the sum of the measure pick. We clicked on discount. So we're showing the sum of discount. If I click here, we're showing the sum of profits. If I click here, we're showing the sum of sales. Here, I can still click around my dimension. Here. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different dimensions and 3 different measures. So we've essentially made 15 different charts into one. And I mean, we've been working with this data for 7 weeks now. we could hand this to someone, and within 10 minutes, they'd be able to learn it just as well as us, just from clicking around into these pickers that we gave them. Now, the last thing I'm going to show you guys before we stop for our first break is I said that we can use parameters anywhere, right? So we use our parameters in 2 calculated fields. We use it for dimension pick and we use it for measure pick. Now I'm just seeing dimension pick and measure pick here. I have no idea what is actually being shown when I click around these, other than obviously looking here. So let's change our title right here. Instead of the sheet name, let's go let's insert our measure choice, sales by, and let's insert our dimension choice. So now we're saying sum of sales. Why did I type it so weird? Sum of sales by ship mode, sum of sales by subcategory, sum of sales by region, sum of profits by region, sum of discounts by region. So now we can go ahead and hide these like normal. Just to top it off. I like it. There you go, 15 charts in one, automatically updating. Full user or full control to the end user. That's the power of parameters. We're going to use that same exact concept. Now that you guys know what parameters are and how they understand they work, let's pull this back open. So parameter here, right? Just use our measure. That's easy. We just learned how to do that. You guys can make this right now. All I'm doing is in my title here. Again, I'm just using the same parameter value there. This value here, right? Colored by sales, right? Same parameter here. So this is all just one parameter so far. Now breakout over here, right? This is exactly like the dimension choice we made here, just how are we wanting to group it. That's all just one thing. Ooh, product name. And then I have a y-axis and a x-axis. So I could do average sales. That's just a parameter. And y-axis right here. Whoops, backwards. It's just a parameter. So in this whole chart, it's basically just 4 parameters that are all tied together. And then some fancy filtering stuff we'll get there. But so we will start to build this after the break. We're going to use just the same exact, the same exact concepts that we just learned about, but basically we'll get 4 times doing it. So four practices. So one thing, because everything in this chart that we're going to be building is just a string. Ryan was asking about some of the functionality of the other ones. Let's go ahead and let me show you one real quick. So let's create another parameter. You guys don't have to copy this down. Let's do, we'll do the thing that we just talked about in our, just do an integer, and then say, I typically put a range, otherwise people can go kind of crazy. Let's just go 0 to 100 by ones. So now we have this parameter here called sales goal that you can just drag 0 to 100. We already made calculated fields, so you guys know how to do that. Let's do a constant line here. Actually, I don't know if I'm doing this on the fly. I may have, whoops. Line, so let's see. Value. Okay, so we can't do it there. I'm sure there's a way. But let's just do, let's make it a little dual axis. Yeah, that's why we would do it. these are bars. Our sales goal is just a little line here. Now if I update this, you can see, let's make our sales goal, edit. Let's go minimum is 100,000. Our maximum is 700,000. Step sizes are 10. Synchronize axes. There we go. So now we have our sales here. We have a little, let's say they want to plot where the goal is. They can drag it up. You see it goes up, they can drag it down. So that's just a parameter too. That allows them to, right? We would have to toss a constant line in there. We'd have to go and change it each time. Goals can be made different, right? So then we could look, let's make this even more powerful. Let's create a calculated field now and say sales goal. If some sales greater or equal to our parameter, right? So right now we'd say, basically we just think of replacing this as if it's greater than or equal to 450,000, then goal else. We've made this if statement a million times, right? You pull that over here. Let's drop it on the color here. So right now we can see there's there's 3 that are above it. So they're all blue. This one missed. Well, let's drag it down. Now they're all blue. Drag it up a little more. This is actually a pretty cool example. So yeah, you do the same thing with dates, right? I'm not going to go through each and every single one, but basically whatever you want the parameter to be, you can create it that way. So make sure I didn't miss anything. I think that's all there is to know about parameters. The rest will just be, oh yeah, and use them in your title. We already went through that too. Okay, any questions on parameters as a concept before we break? As always, it'll make more sense once we start doing it. So let's call it a 6-minute break here. Let's come back at, right when I said it, it changed time, but I'll stick with the 6 minutes. We'll be back at 7:16. The measure picker. Which one did you say?
I just wanted to make sure I had measure pick down right in my calculator.
Yeah, so here's dimension pick. Oh crap. My favorite thing about Tableau is you can zoom in on your little calculate fields.
I was trying to think about the in-game and that whole time through that, when you're doing the goal, there's a second all the time, you start working American sales. It's like, why are they messing with our comp plan? Like, it's always a moving target. You can see they're trying to get, all right, well, if we race the year, then, 10% make it to
Right.
9. You can tell that's what they're doing. Now I'm seeing it this way, like how they're doing it.
Yeah.
Easy, because they're constantly changing it in ways like, this doesn't make sense. Consistency. Now they're just trying to weed out to make sure it doesn't service.
Yes. Can. My bad. God. Poor Rochelle was just squinting there. All right. Let's pull out some snacks.
Those are so good. Thank you.
Yeah. And 2 coffees.
Mhm.
You see it on the ground of it. And so it is all, or did you see it on trucks?
Oh, I just did it.
Okay, it did, but it didn't get fall, right? It just didn't fall. Okay. And then, I just self-service dashboard. It doesn't make that change yourself.
Okay.
But it, you can adjust it, right? But obviously, default to whatever the culture is now. You could adjust it if you wanted to as your.
Well, you're not so animation.
So like, here's the question. So like, say you click on the state and then it doesn't.
No, I mean, that one.
Discount.
Yeah, that one was
If you adjust it for discount, the link, or just change it by the scatter plot that you have. I'm asking this question. Sorry.
That one might be tough.
Okay, then more so default to more of a scatter plot as a general, right, like it would change. Because I know some, you like, the state, and then you, like, we did do color, even, like a lighter teal color, yes, or
Right.
other times it was a dark color, but I wasn't sure if it was based on, because I guess what
So
causes it to that, I guess.
Yeah, the colors are all one. Actually, moving back.
Yeah. You might be your fine. Oh, like for. So, like, or whatever. Or it looks like, or you take me or return it. Yeah. I wish they had the labels for the content house, but was it?
Now, I'm ready for coffee. The spice. What's my
Did anybody go to the play this weekend? No, it was it's all about Mockingbird.
No, but I want to see, Dream Representation.
It's really fun.
All right. 7:16 on the head. Okay, we're going to repetition. Start over. So for those of you that weren't cheating ahead,
You weren't cheating, you were just participating.
I was just kidding. We'll be able to follow along here. So we're opening it up. We're gonna open up our, geez, you'll have to scroll a ways. Superstore. Bring in our orders. So the first thing we're gonna make is the map. So we know we're gonna want states. And again, this is exactly how I'd build it. Ryan, you were kind of asking. We're going to pull sales here. So this is something we made a million times. All we want to change here is our sum of sales. So let's go ahead and actually think we'll just create, in my example here, you guys can see that I added in profit margin, number of orders, days to ship, some of those other like calculated fields we've made throughout this class. For tonight, we'll just go through and do the ones that are here by default. And then for the homework, I'll go in and I'll have you guys add in some additional ones. So we won't actually create anything new. We'll just kind of make ours more robust. So we want to create a parameter that allows us to change the color from just being the sum of sales to either the discount, profit, quantity, or sales. So we're going to create a parameter, and we're going to create a million of these. So let's make sure that we're naming these right. Now we're going to create 4. Sorry, that was kind of a hyperbole. Yes, of course. And I'll get rid of my ticker too. Cool. We're going to call this measure. Oops. Measure. Be a string. We're going to give a list, and we are just going to type in just measure parameter, string, list, and our 4 that we have right here. When we're done typing in those 4, we're going to hit OK. I'll pause and let you guys catch up if we need to. Now we have a parameter. I always show it right away, even though you don't need to. And I always make it a list so that I can see what my values are that we're referencing in our next calculated field that we make. Let's go over here. Create calculated field. Now, I am going to call this our measure. I think it's a little better way to call them. This is our measure parameter. This is what we actually choose. If measure parameter equals sales. I don't know why I went in such a weird order. All right, what did I type in wrong? That needs to be our field, sales, not a string, sales. So now all we've done is allow someone to be able to choose which of these 4 measures they want to use. I'll pause while everyone's typing. And then we have this new calculated field called measure choice. All we're going to do is replace sum of sales with the sum of this new field. And now we can click in, and you see that it's updating each time. I'll pause there for a second. Let me know when you guys get it, or if you want me to open anything back up.
You put your sales
Originally, yep. Now we're going to have the new measure choice on color.
Can you go ahead and open up that measure choice for me?
Yep.
Thank you. I'm working from a 14-inch laptop this time.
You don't have your nice 50-inch hotel TV today.
No, I couldn't figure out how to hook it up. Usually there's a place on the wall or something. Okay, thanks. I took a screen snipping of it.
Any of you guys got it working?
Huh?
Do you have it working? Yes? No? Yes? I'm going to walk around. Actually, just showing the colors and
I did the measure choice for everyone.
Profits working, quantity working, sales working, running, issue, discount. There we go. It's probably because I have to make your order, but we don't have an option. So we have this.
At first I did the measure, was like a parameter.
Yeah.
I mean, all of a sudden, I'm just not look like this.
I'm just looking for snacks that are out either, so I have to keep them away.
Yeah, this one's good, but most of the thing. I'll be right back. I'll be bringing you. It's a candy there. That hazelnut. What is it? This will go in. Okay, nice. Out of the, like, single value list, compact list, sliders, like, which one seems to be the more, like, used
Yeah,
option?
I always go with the single value list just because I can see them all. If I'm pressed for space, sometimes I'll go compact list here. Slider is kind of doesn't really make a whole. If you want to click through them like that, but you can't really see what your options are. And then type in. I wouldn't recommend because you have to know what
They are.
they are.
Also, I mean, again, you have to think about who's the one messing with it, so they don't know what the options are, but you do, but it doesn't
Right.
make sense. Maybe it's gonna be 9 months this month. You know, it's 4 years.
We gotta help her. Someone,
What do you want to do?
they want to play one time.
You better do it.
Charlie, could you show me how to build that sum of measure choice again, please?
Yep.
It was pretty easy once they got that. Two and a half.
So I build the measure parameter first,
Yep.
and then I build a measure choice.
Yep.
Okay.
Are you running into any issues, Ted, or just tough going back and forth?
It's tough bouncing back and forth. So
Yeah.
I'll just be slower. I don't want to hold everyone up, so I can always.
That's okay. We got a couple people working here still.
Dogs and babies, two things like this.
Charlie, versus how long like the bar chart
Good job. Good job. It's the hardest thing to do. Whenever I see a happy family, it's kids. So who has the most flexibility? You?
Like, catch up with everything.
Yeah.
So like, stuff.
Yep.
But this can go into, January, you know,
That's good.
yeah, but I'm a little bit like measuring, understanding the language, since I'm Spanish, I'm not sure if you know, so I'm just kind of like, I live in Ireland, so. Immersion.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go to private school there, which is like, yeah, it's, yeah.
Okay.
So
So it does take
it's a
the
drop.
consideration.
Wow.
There's no, first of all, it's not expensive.
Good
So
stuff.
it's summer.
All right, we're gonna move on to our scatter plot now, which luckily is gonna be almost identical to what we just made here. So we are, by default, again, always kind of start with just a couple things. Let's do discount, sales, and let's break it up by category or something. It doesn't really matter. So here's our scatter plot, right? We have our three categories, kind of boring. Let's go subcategory. Right, we have sales here, we have discount here, and you see it's broken up by subcategory. So what we want to be able to do, remember from our example here, is we want to let the end user pick what they want. So here we have profit and discount. Maybe they want average discount and profit. Maybe they want days to ship and profit. Maybe they want days to ship and sales, right? So we'll have some different options for them. So we're just going to create two new parameters, and really we're just going to create one and copy and paste it. So let's create a parameter. Let's just call this y-axis. We're going to do our list. And let's do, maybe for the sake of the time, let's just go for sales and profit instead of all four. Now we have our y-axis, show it. We have a single value list, right? Sales and profit, here's our two. And now we're going to create a calculated field called y-axis, or whatever you want. And just like normal, if y-axis equals sales, then sales, else if y. So now we've created our y-axis. I know you guys are catching up, but the next one's gonna be exactly the same. So let's go ahead and replace sum of discount, which is on our y-axis right here, with this new y-axis chart we've made. So now you can see we can change sales. Now, sales is a straight line, right? Because we still have sales on the x-axis, so it's sales by sales, or we change this to profit. So that one's working. Now what I'm going to do is I'm literally just going to click here, and I'm going to go duplicate. So now you see I have y-axis copy, and I'm just going to change this to x-axis. So if I were to open this up and look at it, which kind of defeats the purpose of saving time and copying it, but you can see it's exactly like we had before, right? Sales and profit. So let's go ahead and show this. Here's our list. So now I have sales, profit. I have my y-axis up here. So now I just have to create an x-axis. So the same thing, I'm going to go click. I'm going to go duplicate. And I'm going to change this to just be x-axis. Just to prove that it's the same, I'm going to go ahead and click edit. And you see, oh, it's not the same. Good thing I opened it up. So I have right here, it's still pulling in whatever the y-axis parameter is equal to, right? I don't want that. I want whatever the, gosh, that's annoying. X-axis is equal to. Now I can replace sales with my x-axis. Now I can have y-axis sales profit, x-axis sales profit. So here's profit by profit, here's sales by sales, here's sales by profit, here's profit by sales. So again, here's both of the parameters should be exactly the same. They should just have values sales and profit. The only difference is one needs to be titled x-axis and one needs to be titled y-axis. Then we should have two calculated fields called y-axis and x-axis. You can title them whatever you want, but they should also both look exactly the same. The only difference is one should say if x-axis, whichever one is titled x-axis, it should be x. And then our y-axis one here should be, again, exactly the same. The only difference is now this says y-axis. Okay, I'm gonna walk around real quick.
Just trying to change copy the y-axis here.
Go ahead and just get rid of it. So I always try to type those and fix it.
So then that's why you doesn't do.
You see the little one line. So then, yeah, it's like,
Okay, I was just taking the name out of it, so you're saying, take the actual reference name. Okay.
But she does do.
So it knows when it's adding or combining it, because before, whenever we did it on top, it would delete it. But since it's under this, it's just a combine.
it's, what do you combine?
I kind of put it on top, whereas before we did that, we would just move it completely out.
Oh,
We're adding it on top of.
I think we're moving it completely out, we're doing it over too.
Oh, I see.
Because that is what it's doing, it's moving it out, so we have some discount on there.
Okay.
So we get full, profit over here, with right on top.
I thought you were still adding it. No, it's actually. Okay, okay.
Now we
It's just excellent for. I know. Oh, I don't have one.
There we go. Okay. Thank
They
you.
copied this.
Okay. That's it. And your time is in. So I have to update this, right? So this is what comes out first. That's just a.
Yeah.
Okay, so then when I do that, it doesn't show up. See?
So you have your examples created.
Oh, so I have to create a new one and then duplicate it.
Yep, so we need some parameters as well.
Okay.
Yeah. And honestly, what I would do if you're thinking about it, you knew exactly what you did for that, just duplicate
This one.
this parameter
Okay.
and then change it to x-axis.
And then. Go just. Oh, okay. Because now it's finding out. Same as this, right?
Back to basics. Oh, yeah. So this should just be,
Your next
excuses will create this.
Edit.
the,
Oh, okay.
click along, make sure.
Did work change. Yay, thank you guys. Teamwork is great.
Your jump around really fast, should be,
Like, too much. Right.
No, it just needs to, if you're open, I'm back up. Yeah. Yeah, so it will,
That's what it's not, I'm just gonna do
oh yeah, sometimes it's supposed to drag on. Don't worry about it.
I think this is well, it's proprietary, so.
And then show parameter for the wall. No. Good.
All right. We got about 15 more minutes before our next break. But we're actually at a we're going to be able to, we got most of the hard work done. So let's go ahead and create a dashboard here. And we learned last week, I always like to go fixed size, generic desktop, just to kind of get something standard. If we pull in, let's rename these just so we know what they are. Go ahead and pull in our map here. Scatter plot here. Let's get rid of some of these ugly things. So we know, I'm going to go ahead and bring the measure parameter, which we know is controlling the map, up above it, along with our little bar. Maybe I'll do something like this. I don't know. We don't need to spend forever formatting this, but now we can see we have our measure parameter here. We can click around and we see discount, profit, quantity, and sales. And over here, we can mess around with our x-axis and our y-axis. And this updates. Now, the next thing that we'll do, and the last thing we'll do before our next break, is in my example, you can see that the colors I had over here was the color of the dots. So the only thing that we need to change is we already have this cool parameter created on this tab, right? If we go back here, you can see we have measure choice as the color. So even though we're not using, right, the measure parameter here, this is just the same exact one. Oops. Same exact one that we already created on this one, same parameter. And we can see we have measure choice here. So let's go ahead and change. Right now, I think we have subcategory on color. If you just click this thing, let's just go to detail. So now you can see they're all the same color. And let's just drag our, measure choice On the color, let's make them like a circle and let's make them a little bit bigger so you can see them. Now, if we go back to our dashboard, even though we created this on a different sheet, this measure parameter, you can see that we're using the calculated field because the measure parameter doesn't exist just on this sheet. It's here everywhere. Same with the x-axis and the y-axis. And we created this measure choice that exists everywhere too, even though we created it on this tab. So we can use it across sheets. So now we have the ability to choose whichever measure we want to show. And it updates not just the map, but the scatter plot as well. Now we can mess around with these, just like before. Mess around with these. So all I did was went to my scatter plot. I put measure choice on the color, subcategory on the detail. Yep. Yeah, from the measure right here. Yep. I clicked in, made the size bigger, and I also chose circles as opposed to these ugly kind of clear shapes. So, although you could click in a shape and you can choose something fun.
See how you did that.
Yeah.
You got all the dynamics on it. How you just change it around with it. Is that you struggle with the?
Yeah.
Because this doesn't want me to shrink it down. It wants me to move it all.
Yeah.
How do you?
First thing I always do is you just mix.
It's kind of let's make it.
It always has to get over to play around with it.
Okay.
And then, and then I just will kind of organize that.
So that's how you squash it. Because I was gonna try to shrink it.
Oh,
So have
yeah.
something in there to actually push it down.
Yeah.
Make it good. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So you
Okay.
Yeah, the dashboard, it requires a certain,
Well, it's one of those I can jump around on it, but that's not how fast you're moving. Like I'm doing something wrong here. Okay, thank you.
Anyone running up into any hiccups or anything? Any hiccups? And then feel free to, if you guys want to mess around with the colors, if you don't like the little, and actually, yeah, Brenda, this is what you were asking me during the break. So the way that the color works is measure choice, right? This is still just one field now. Even though we have the parameters hooked up to allow it to be multiple things, you can see measure choice never changes. So whatever color palette we set, I guess the point is if you wanted to have purple when you click on sales and green when you click here and red when you click here and rainbow when you click here, you're not able to do that because, well, there is probably a way, but simply you're not able to do that because Tableau is saying it doesn't show you as changing what your field is here. It's just one field, measure choice. But you can go in here and you can make that specific thing, whatever you want. But that color itself is always going to be showing the same thing.
This is within the thing, what you're showing for the project.
Right. So I'm going to go ahead and keep mine blue.
I think it's cool how this better like you fix it and that.
I also think it's very cool. Okay, before we take our next break, because like I mentioned, we're not going to build anything different for the homework. The last 2 nights are just going to be really finalizing. We can think of this as our final project. But what I want you guys to do for homework, so I'm going to show you how to do it real quick, is go in and basically fill out the rest of our options, right? So for the x-axis and the y-axis over here, right? Let's go back to the sheet. We just have sales and profits. So what I'll have you guys do is actually click into these and we can add quantity discount. Let's add those 2 for right now. Now again, we've added those in there, so they're showing on our measure parameter. But when we click into, whoops, sorry, wrong one. We just added it to the x-axis. When we click into sales profit, those work. Discount broken, quantity broken. Why? Because now we need to go in here to our calculated field and add quantity discount, and then anything else that you guys think would be quantity discount. Now we can click into all 4 of those. So like in my example, I created a profit margin, orders, days to ship. Remember, we created that one at the date diff between the, and you guys don't need to, you can add however many you want. The point of this practice is basically just how you can go and edit, add additional choices, and then update your X and your Y axis. So yeah, so any of the measures down here would be what you'd want to use. Basically anything that you can sum up. So that's one thing that I'll have you guys do. Another thing that I'll want you guys to do is use your parameters in some of your different titles, right? So like for map right here, that's a pretty awful title. Let's just do sum of, and we can go insert. And remember here, we're not using the x-axis, we're not using the y-axis, but we're using the measure parameter. So this will be sum of discount profit quantity sales by state. Okay. Now we have discount. When we click into profit, it shows profit. Quantity, it shows quantity. So we'll want to do that same sort of thing for the scatter plot as well too. So we'll want to build these out. All right, let's create one more parameter before the break, and then we'll get into the filtering dashboard actions for the last thing of the night. So the only thing that we don't have, we pretty much have everything built out from a parameter standpoint. The only thing we don't have is how we're breaking out our scatter plot over here. So if we click into our scatter plot, you can see right now we just have subcategory added, which is why obviously these are all binder storage, right? We're showing subcategory. I promise this is the last parameter of the night. We're going to create a parameter and we're going to call this, I don't know, let's call it something really simple. This is like group by, because this is what we're going to group by. It's going to be a string, it's going to be a list. And for simplicity, let's just make it two favorites. Let's go region and category. Those are both really simple. Again, we'll just start with those two. We can add more later. Let's go ahead and show that parameter so we know what we're kind of looking for. Region category. Now let's go ahead and create our calculated field by choice or something. It's going to be the same thing. If group by equals, it should start feeling like habit by now. Region, then region. Else if group by equals category and category. Now instead of grouping by subcategory like we were before, we can group by our group by choice that we just made. And now we can switch between category and region. I'm also going to go ahead and drag group by choice onto my label as well. That makes it a little easier to see that we're switching between the two. And when we get back to our dashboard, we'll just need to click this little arrow, parameters, and bring group by in here as well. Get it, Brenda? Okay. Sorry. What would you like me to pull back up?
No, it's fine.
Yep.
We got this. You just need to write that by. And then you see that. Boom.
So why was that? So subcategory we took out.
Yeah,
So that was
because,
getting in the way, or what was the?
yeah, so you can actually group by, like we have this on detail, it's grouped by category right now. If we bring in, subcategory, you can see we have technology, which is our category, subcategory phones. It's basically grouped by both things, so we would have, just pull to show you what I mean. But basically, it's grouped by both of those things right now. Okay, so we go through each and you guys here. Okay. So there, we would have, we have binders here in the east and binders here in central. So not only are we grouping by the region, but we're also grouping by subcategory.
Okay.
So it was basically just
Clear.
multiplying everything by.
Too many options. Okay. Thank you.
So we're gonna have.
Which one's not hours based on this little changes and
It
was this down here?
Yeah. What is it you brought in? Oh, that's fine. What's this, Oh, okay. So orders isn't actually that field. What I did was I did a count distinct, of order ID.
Oh, so it's actually one of
Yeah, but maybe wait on that one because there's, yeah, those four are enough. Okay, the only other thing, I think everyone's getting pretty close here, so we can head to break real quick. The only other thing is when you go back to your dashboard, in order to get your new group by field you just created to pop up, if you just click on either one of your charts and hit this little down arrow, you'll see a little section for parameters, and you'll just have to click group by to get it to show. Anyone not seeing that option in there? Because it doesn't automatically pull into the dashboard. Yep. Either you can click on either one of these, then the little down arrow. There's a little parameter section. Then here's all four of our parameters we made. Just click the checks for whichever ones you want to show, and they'll bring in. So we've done. we're gonna take a quick break, stretch the legs, relax the mind. The last thing that we're gonna learn is, I think, the coolest and actually the easiest. So I promise parameters are done. We're gonna learn how to filter here, right? So when we click on our state, everything updates. And then I totally forgot another thing that I built in here. If you click on this, you see if you hover, this little learn more pops up. And if you click on it, it'll actually take you to the Wikipedia for Nebraska. So you can click on this. Oops. Montana, learn more pops up. You go to Montana. Okay, let's come back at 8:15. So just a quick little 4-minute break. And I promise those last two, the filtering and the Wikipedia thing, will take maybe like 10 minutes to walk through. They're really easy. So 8:15.
Oh, yeah.
So what you say you wanted to see things lower versus the street?
I was saying, if one of the, if you want to say you choose make it blah, blah, but what if one is more flow and one, like, how does that work?
What you said, well,
Charlie, I have two things for you.
Yeah.
Like, no, yeah. For the change of tax, right?
Remember putting in the actual
Order,
majors?
who's on order number?
Come up with some of the actual thing. What
Order
are
number
some
one.
of the answers?
Just make sure you click on
Right, but they use it as a tax, it could be as a tax too.
oh, that's a state.
Yes, order is a static.
I think you were, yeah.
Yes, yes. So I think it's like, yeah, it's set here, and so I think, I don't know.
The first time I did it, I was saying that actual thing.
Those are.
Okay, so parameters each time.
I'm trying to,
And then one more
I'm trying to
thing.
like activate something.
Is there a way to actually see myself in this slot? You're all vertical like this, but for space, be able to move two of those over there. So I have all just four of them kind of horizontal. So you can do right now. Maybe you can't. Maybe you feel compact. Let's really look at that now. I think there's a way of range parameters. Okay. Just trying to figure out visually. Yeah. Okay.
Last section here, dashboard actions. I have some slides prepared, but I honestly think it probably makes more sense for me to just demo it, and we'll do the hands-on kind of all together here, because it really is pretty straightforward. So when you're on your dashboard, at the very top in this, let me make this big again. In this top little nav bar, there's a little drop down for dashboard. If you click into that, there's a section here called actions. So dashboard actions, just like it says, lets you create interactive relationships between the data, dashboard objects, other worksheets, and the web. So we are going to add an action, and you can see there's filter, highlight, go to URL, go to sheet, change parameter, change set values. For this class, we're just going to really focus on filter and go to URL, because those are the two that I use the most. Highlight is basically if I click in to something over here, it highlights it everywhere else. Go to sheet, you can actually click on something and have it go away from your dashboard and pop up a different sheet altogether. Maybe this is what we'll do next week if we get some extra time. So tonight, let's just do the filter. And then basically it's saying you have two sections here, source and target. So we want this filter to basically, source is where it's coming from. So when I click on the map, the target sheet, so the one I want it to affect, is going to be the scatter plot. Now you can run this on just when you hover over any state, when you select any state. Menu is actually when you click into it and then a little menu item will pop up. We are just going to select. And then clearing the selection, we're going to do show all values. So I will, we'll mess around with this a little bit and I'll show you the difference. But let's call this state filter. And then I think by default, it'll work just like this, but I always like to be a little bit more specific because right now it's doing all fields. So if I had like region or category or anything else on my state, whatever I clicked on, it would filter all of those. I don't want that. So we're going to go selected fields and we're just going to add in state, and the target field automatically populates state. So this filter will take the map, whatever we select on the map, and on the scatter plot, it will filter down to just the state. Let me know when you guys think that you have everything kind of copied here. Good, good. You guys think you have it, go ahead and click OK and click on a state and see what happens. If it breaks, let me know. Good. You should be fine, yeah.
You might say, oh, I'm just gonna change that. I didn't, whatever. Otherwise, I would.
Yeah, figure it out. Either way, I got it though, so don't slowly pass back out to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got it. Okay. Cool.
Okay, so I think most people are getting pretty close here. So like I said, that's all it took. Now when we click Nebraska, this updates. Oh yeah, region's kind of a annoying one, right? Let's make these more fun. Appears to be working. Now, notice right now I have this selected. If I were to unselect it, see how it shows all the values again. In my actions, what I was talking about, we hit edit here. If I have keep filtered values, let's see what that looks like. So now when I click Nebraska, if I were to unclick it, see how these stay the same? That means it's keeping the filtered values, which is Nebraska. So now I have to click into something else, which I don't like. Let's go actions, edit. If I have exclude all values, so it keeps it like this. I select Texas, it shows it. If I unselect Texas, it shows nothing. So there's use cases maybe for each of these. But I always like to just have show all values. So whenever you click into something, if you unclick it, it just goes back to kind of the default. Now let me show you guys the other thing too is the run the action. So if I were to click on the hover here, this one's gonna be kind of crazy. As soon as I hover over Texas, it updates. I could hover over here. So you don't even have to click in, which I think is pretty cool. It's just doing it on whatever you hover over. If I were to, whoops, yeah, I guess that works fine. Menu is you click, and then when you hover over it, this little menu pops up, and you can click the state filter, then it goes. So you can still click around, it doesn't do anything, but when you click, the menu pops up, and then you can click into whatever you want. So, I mean, 99.9% of the time, I'd say I typically just do it on the select, show all the values when you filter. But those are the only things that are updating. So now with that dashboard action in there, let's just calculate it real quick. How many different charts we've built? We have 2 options for the y-axis times 4 options for the x times 2 options for the region times 4 options for the parameter times 50 actions for the state. So we've made 3,200 different charts over the course of the last hour, however long we've been doing this, which I think is incredibly impressive. And then once you guys add in additional X and Y axis things, obviously that number is just going to balloon. So like I said, for the homework, add some different options in, make it look pretty. Don't forget you have your ugly little tool tips now that just say measure choice. Obviously you'll want that to show what is actually showing. Over here, we have X-axis and Y-axis in our tooltips, group by choice, measure choice. Those all need to be cleaned up, change the colors. So that's all we're gonna do for homework. The last thing I'm gonna show is one more dashboard action. So we go dashboard, actions. We're gonna add one. We're gonna go to a URL. Now this one,
you could, let me just show. So let's do, no matter what you click on, map or the scatter, we're going to do it on the menu. So that way, this is a good example of when you wouldn't want to do something on just the select or hover. Like if you were on the hover and you had to go to URL, you'd have a million tabs popping up constantly. So let's make it a little harder. They actually have to click in and go there. We could just do www.buildertrend.com, any URL we want. Now, when we click here, we get our hyperlink and it opens, pull this over, buildertrend.com. Click into this, doesn't matter. It opens buildertrend.com. But that's boring. We want to make it dynamic. So what I typically use this for, it's kind of hard to find a good use case for this. So other than the one I use it for all the time, let me just show you how it works. So notice in the URL for Wikipedia for each state, it's exactly the same. And then at the very end, it has Nebraska. If we were to go to the same exact URL, type Alabama, it works. Type in Texas. So similar to our parameters, we're looking at what the commonalities are between all our different URLs. So we're going to go ahead and let's go back to our dashboard actions. Our hyperlink, let's go to edit it. And let's just bring in this URL. Except we want it to be dynamic, right? We don't want it to be just for Texas. So let's clear that out. And then we have our little insert thing that we've seen before in tooltips and titles and things like that, where we can bring in fields. And let's just bring in state. Let me Control Z that. Maybe it has to be just the map. There we go. State. So now you can see it's our same exact URL, which again, if you need to, just Google real quick any state name and copy and paste the whole thing. And then just remove the last state and go insert state right there. What was that?
I have the hyperlink now. She said delete Texas and put what?
Just delete the like Texas or Alabama or whatever the state is. And yes, sorry. And then what were you asking, Ryan?
Oh, I think it's because we're still stuck on the other one. When I go to insert, there's not this. It's all like parameters, sums. Like
Oh. Yeah, just make sure you're on click. Sheet 2. Yep.
That was the
I see on the dashboard, but on the sheet, is that typical? Once I edited on the dashboard, is that why? So on here, I can click on it. Or,
Yeah.
and then it's that, so it's fine, right? Yeah. So then I go to this.
Right. Yeah. So these are. I think you could actually do one sheet. Actually, yeah.
So can't get to dashboard actions from here. Try worksheet actions. So let's go to yeah, go ahead and edit on that one. I think it's just comes on dashboard.
It just comes in.
So I think you do actually, I think you have to create two different actions for that.
That's just because of how I have it set up, or is that?
Yeah, no, so dashboard actions and worksheet actions, well, they're pretty much the same thing, there are different. So I think it would be a worksheet action and a dashboard action depending on.
So can I just, from an action standpoint, do it right here? Is it still just gonna do the own state?
Yeah, go ahead and do that action.
Yeah, that's why it's not yours. Because they wanted to change it on the
So-
Man, I have this right here.
Yeah. So go ahead and backspace state. And then I think insert. And then state.
Oh, that's how to.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So it's not even changed?
Yeah. How's that?
Okay. Showing them.
Cool. Boom. All right, I think we got some people wrapping up here. So yeah, 3,000 different charts. If you bring in the ability to go out to Wikipedia, what I always have to do to kind of like remember, we've actually done this before, is a lot of times, like we actually go to, let me just show you guys. Inside of Builder Trend, there is a, log in real quick. So this is our actual product. We have these different reports tabs. So this is something that like our developer team actually built out and embedded in our product. What you have to remember and why Tableau is so incredible is, even though I know this has seemed like a long 2.5 hours, the fact that we just built a dashboard with the ability to show 3,000 different types and go to URLs and things like that. If you were to send that in to an engineering team to build out, it would take them days or weeks. So a lot of times what we'll do is real quick prototyping in Tableau, build out how we want it to work, because we can change things so quick, and then hand it off to our dev team. Like the fact that we can add in different like options for our x-axis just by typing in one word and it automatically populates, you know, that's multiple lines of code that they would have to go in and send through QA and things like that. So it is really, really impressive how quickly we're able to make this. And I know it was a hard night, but yeah.
So like, we want to start off.
Yep.
And how it on the x-axis and y-axis here, so we have sales or profit from your discount, so that it is zero, and so make it on the
Yes.
sales.
Next week. Yeah. So the question was on our scatter plot here, is there a way to show on the label y-axis and x-axis? The short answer is no. The long answer is we will learn how to do it next week. Cool. So this is all I had. Yeah, for the assignment, we have basically all the functionality and all the heavy duty stuff. The assignment for tonight is just make it pretty. So clean up the formatting, update tooltips, update titles. Remember, you can use your parameters, add your own colors. I think maybe the only other thing that I would add in there would be add in other store options. Again, you don't have to go in and add 20 different options, but just get practice adding more than just sales and profit. If nothing else, make sure you have all 4. We have lots of different group by options other than just region or categories. Maybe add in a couple more there. We just get practice editing, updating those. Otherwise, yeah, we have a fully functioning dashboard with a couple different dashboard options. I feel good about it. Any other questions for tonight? Ted, James?
No, I'm gonna have to rewatch this. Just it was too much too fast, and I can't navigate between screens that quick.
Yeah, definitely tough with the one screen. Unfortunately, I think the video is going to be a lot of silence, so it may not be the most exciting watch. But I will shoot the link right after this. I'll be around for the next 53 minutes if anyone has any questions. Otherwise, I'll see you on Wednesday. Reminder that Nate will be coming here as well as the professor for the next class. So we'll do a little handoff. And he did say he will order pizza with a vegetarian option. I can't remember who said they needed that, but we will have that. That's all I got. Thanks for a good night. We will. Yeesh. I'll also drop in the chat.